The deepest healing can absolutely start when we look within and when we have honest observation. And this is what Monday, the 3rd of August, 2026 is offering us. That's the day when Chiron starts to go retrograde from 052 in the sign of Taurus. He's going to be making this retrograde journey up until the 6th of January next year, where by this time, he's going to be in the sign of Aries. So there is a signal change here. And I mentioned it yesterday in the Sunday forecasts with the 4 stages of healing. On Sunday, we had Chiron in a sextile with the mean north node, to me suggesting that our journey has reoriented. That's creating that opportunity for us. Today, on Monday, we're starting that inner journey, and it's honest observation. Now, the reason I want to talk about this is because Chiron, spent quite a lot of time in Aries, and like 2018 and beyond that, with Chiron in Aries, everything was very identified. Aries is associated with being very much about the identity, very much about being, in the persona, very much in the body, definitely in those gut-wrenching emotions. Pain became very obvious and vulnerabilities became very obvious to us. And so I think it's interesting that Chiron's turning back around now and looking at those Chiron and Aries times. He's giving us that chance to just review, like, what was going on in 2018 for you, what was going on in 2019, what happened in 2020, 2021, and so on and so forth. How has your healing journey evolved? Most likely, it's been a time when you have become very aware of where you felt vulnerable, because that's what the awareness is in the sign of Aries. But now Chiron's looking back and asking you very specifically, were you a victim of this pain? Were you a victim of what you were experiencing at the time? Is there, how many other explanations might there be? How many other possibilities are there? I recognize in saying that could absolutely make your haunches go up, because, we feel so strongly about the pain that we experience. And so I'm not here to disabuse you of any experience if it feels like absolutely during this time you experienced victimhood, you experienced this very strong pain, because we all go through some really tough stuff. I certainly went through some tough changes during that time. However, Chiron going retrograde from Taurus, which is absolutely about where we're reclaiming the body and reclaiming the nervous system and looking at it from a position of calm reflection, not angry reflection. We're looking at it from a completely different perspective. I think there's going to be some real shifts, in possibility. Now, hear me out, because even if, as you're reflecting honestly, you still absolutely find that the story you already have is still true, that's not to say you're doing anything wrong. You may well have worked it all out perfectly during the Chiron in Aries time, absolutely. But what is different is there's been a taster now of what Chiron in Taurus can offer us. And Chiron in Taurus is saying we don't have to feel the pain again and again and again to heal from it. Chiron in Taurus is saying, do you know what? The rights and wrongs, the good and bad, the facts about the pain that we've experienced doesn't actually need to be part of the solution. It's not about sidestepping. It's not necessarily about gaslighting or whatever that word is I'm looking for. Oh, crikey. What is it? Pretending it hasn't happened. What's that word? I know you'll write it in the in the comments for me. It's right on the tip of my tongue. I'm sure it is for you too. Bypassing, that's the word I was looking for. If you were shouting bypassing, thanks, because I think I just heard it. So Chiron in Taurus is actually saying all of this is already possible, and you don't have to forget about it. You don't have to forgive about it. You don't have to do any of that stuff. In fact, all you have to do is think, what is my body crying out for right now? If I could experience something without the stories, if I could just feel good in my body right now? What practical steps can I take that would allow me to sit in that feeling of calm? And so this is suggesting maybe breath work or eating differently, because I mean, that can have a huge shift on our inner psychology and physiology. Just, I mean, if you've ever had a food allergy, you'll know exactly what I mean. Food can absolutely create a change in how we feel. So yeah, there's a very different perspective, one that you haven't experienced. Most likely, if you're not over 50, you won't have had Chiron in the sign of Taurus before. And so you will never have had that experience. So, this is helping us. So we are going back and seeing where we're at from a different perspective. And it's not to say you've ever been wrong in anything. It's just saying, in fact, it's saying it's not about right or wrong. It's actually taking us out of the Aries Chiron pain conundrum altogether, because Aries rages about pain and soreness and rawness, and I absolutely did a lot of raging myself during that time. But it's now looking almost as if, well, we've all got older, we've all expanded our feelings and our experience, and this is saying, look, aren't you exhausted? Like, let's just make a decision. And that decision might well be something like, do you know what? I don't want to suffer anymore. I can take practical steps to maybe not eradicate my suffering, but maybe to understand my body and my nervous system from a different perspective. So I see it as an opportunity. If you feel wronged in this, I'm absolutely sorry. I'm tripping over my words, trying to say this in the most tactful way possible, because I know just how fucking raw Chiron in Aries is. Absolutely been there. And I might not have experienced your experience, but yeah. So there's been a lot of pain that's been spoken about since 2018. And lots of upset about pain and vulnerability. So this is going to be interesting, because we are going to go back into that position. And if you didn't like where you were then, if you didn't like yourself when you were getting angry about things or feeling really triggered by things, then it's important ahead of time to think, okay, how can I hold on to this Chiron in Taurus patience and this Chiron in Taurus peacefulness and this Chiron in Taurus possibility, that actually there are still some practical things I can do, and it doesn't take away the pain, it doesn't remove the experience, but it gives you a completely different perspective. So that's going to be happening, and we're starting that journey on Monday. Now, Chiron will go back into Aries on the 18th of September, and then he's going to be there until I think April of next year. So we are going to get lots and lots of opportunities to re-experience things, but maybe not with the same fire or the same urgency or the same sort of energy that actually made us go round and round in circles, almost like, like a hamster on a wheel. But instead of getting some good exercise, it's as if when we were on that wheel, it was going faster and faster and faster and faster. And the upset was spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning faster and faster and faster and faster. And it was like we were all getting whipped up in a frenzy. And then if you think about actually what's happened in like social media and in the news, again, I'm not saying that some things didn't happen or they did, or, disabusing you of how you've experienced things, but the news cycles have also whipped things up. And a lot of us have been ready to hear the whipped up news rather than all of us being able to step back and say, actually, what's going on here? There's something much bigger going on behind the scenes. And it could get mad, actually. So, yeah, this Chiron going retrograde, it's changing our journey, and it's requiring honest observation. And we've now got enough of this Chiron in Taurus to be able to see it. So I'm very happy about that. Anyway, there's more to this, because on the 3rd of August, we've also got 6 moon aspects, main moon aspects, which makes it the second or the joint lead in terms of busy moon days. And with these busy moon aspects coming in, that's showing lots of shifts, lots of evolving patterns and pictures all weaving in together. And so there's a lot of material happening. The first one that is coming up is the moon is going to be in an exact sextile with Pluto. That's helpful because it's helping us to feel strong, empowered, but it's requiring some effort on our part. So you might feel like you're being encouraged to stand strong and to step into your power. And it's not something that you can just like stand in and go, ta-da, here I am, like Superwoman. It's saying like you have to do something. You can't just expect everything to just transform. You have to take some effort. Sextiles, I love sextiles because they show opportunities, but they're never just freely given. They're opportunities that come from you creating your own luck. There's also a conjunction with Neptune, which I think of as being a little bit like the moon in Pisces that we're just coming from. And with this, I think, there's a dreaminess. And I think we're kind of very clued into what we're sensitive about in terms of our values, especially about our compassion and our forgiveness and what we feel might be happening in our families, in our local environments, and even overseas, because Neptune is a massive idealist. And especially in the sign of Aries, we can absolutely feel the call of compassion and get very stirred with that. So that's quite stirring. And so, if some of the local news cycles or international news cycles have caught your attention, the moon in a sextile to Pluto could very well be, I don't feel very powerful here right now. And that could really echo stuff from 2018 and that journey since then. Then it's going into an exact sextile with Uranus and Gemini. Again, it's picking up on the theme of what's going on in our local community. Like Gemini is absolutely about our local community and the people that we interact with and how that happens. And to me, I think, we can have some fun with that. Conversations could be quite inspiring, move very quickly. And I think we can learn and we can shift through those conversations in a beautiful way. The moon is also in a trine to Jupiter, which I think is lovely. It's also going to make a trine to the sun even lovelier. So, the trine to Jupiter and the sun is really suggesting that as we come towards the end of the day, we're moving into a feeling of well-being. And then right at the end of the day, the moon is in a conjunction with Saturn. Now, this could just be that we decide at the end of the day, actually, maybe I'm going to go to bed early tonight. Maybe I'm going to give my teeth a really good clean and give myself a pedicure and attend to some things that maybe, are a little bit, in need of being done. You might put an extra layer of moisturizer on your hands. I don't know. But and I like this because, the sun and Saturn are going to go into a trine exactly on the 7th. So we're already coming into this Sun-Saturn trine, which is talking about us taking responsibility for ourselves, really looking after ourselves. I think I'm going to go and get some washing up gloves and start looking after my hands a little bit better. That's quite a grown-up thing to do, isn't it? For years I've just been like, it doesn't matter. But yeah, maybe I'm growing up, who knows? So, as we come to the end of the day, especially if you've tuned into this lovely opening energy, sextile Uranus, trine Jupiter with the moon, that to me is feeling like there's good people around, good conversations around, conversations that remind us we're part of something and remind us that there's really good people in our lives. We don't need to necessarily be in fear. And then, like I said, that conjunction at the end of the day, I think can help us have an early night, maybe switch off your social media, get a good night's sleep, get away from the blue light, whatever it is, and it's not for me to say what you should be doing, but I'm sure you've got this is what I would do in my ideal life. And so I see you getting your act together, me getting my act together, all ready for Tuesday and to see what happens on Tuesday. So anyway, loads of love to you wherever you are and catch up with you with another installment tomorrow. Lots of love. Bye for now.